It really is an honor for the Sun Dome to be the host of the largest piece of public art.
Circle of light makes the building come alive. It really makes the building sing.
For over 100 years, expanding quality and access to care has anchored the legacy of the Virginia Mason and Franciscan health systems. As a unified system, Virginia Mason Franciscan Health will continue this legacy, expanding access to high-quality care to our community's most vulnerable. As caregivers and healers, neighbors and community members, our commitment to building healthy communities will keep us strong for generations to come.
It's wonderful that right out there, right out front, as you walk either by the building or into it, you will see her name.
I thought the dream candidate would be Jeanette Hayner, but I never thought that she would actually say yes if I were to approach her about being the board chair.
And she was just sitting there beaming. And then I looked over at her son and noticed that he had a tear coming down his eyes. And I thought, oh wow, how wonderful is that?
You're gonna tell us what they are.
You all set? Okay, happy sine die. This has been an extraordinary session. I want to thank everybody who's been working so hard on this, particularly all our hard-working legislative staff that makes all this possible late at night. This has been an extraordinary session for two reasons. One, the measures that the legislature have passed have been extremely broad, and they have been extremely big, and both of those are important. As a result of them going big on housing, people are going to have housing. As a result of them going big on special education, more kids are going to have special education. As a result of them taking big, strong measures against gun violence, we've taken big steps against gun violence. As a result of moving forward on clean energy, we're putting people to work while fighting climate change big time as well. So this has really been a historic session. In talking about the specifics, I want to start with housing because it's something I started in my first discussion with the legislature about. I asked the legislature to go big on housing, and they did. They went big on housing so people can go home. What they appropriated is in the realm of $1 billion. That is an enormous expansion of previous investment in housing. And importantly, it's basically what I asked them to do in this biennium in my original proposal. So I am delighted at the progress we've made on housing. We wish we could solve this in 24 hours, but we've now set the resource base to really move forward at scale to attack homelessness in our beautiful state. Now, they also passed much needed policies, as you know, to increase housing density so we can build more housing. They passed measures so we can speed up permitting. We've passed measures to eliminate the backlogs in construction. This was a big-time housing session of the Washington State Legislature, and I appreciate the progress that we are making. In guns, in gun violence, big-time action in 3 measures: banning assault weapons, making sure people had safety training before they bought a firearm, and requiring a 10-day waiting period, as well as a third bill for manufacturer's liability. They move forward in a way that I think is significant and real and common sense. These measures have been proven to work, and I'm appreciative of the courage of legislators to step up the plate in this regard. I also appreciate their work in making appropriate reforms to our police pursuit law to give police officers additional discretion, additional instances when they can pursue potential offenders. They came together to have a better balance on this issue, and I think it was in the right direction. I appreciate everybody working so hard on it. On reproductive freedom, the legislature acted, and they needed to, because the Republican Party is continuing to assault this freedom interest, the freedom of choice of women in the state of Washington. They passed a shield law to protect women from the intrusion of other states. They enhanced data protection so that people could not have their data shared. And importantly, they improved equitable access by eliminating out-of-pocket insurance costs for abortions. Now, importantly, they also authorized our acquisition of mifepristone through our Department of Corrections, which has been proven to be an important step forward to make sure that Trump-appointed judges cannot intrude on the women's right of choice in the state of Washington. I particularly want to thank Senators Kaiser, Cleveland, and Representatives Slatter and Bateman for their work in this regard. I want to mention climate for 2 reasons. One, I was at Earth Day Mount Rainier yesterday, absolutely beautiful, but the rangers told me that we have lost fully 1/2 of all of the glacier ice on Mount Rainier is gone, just during my lifetime or shortly longer than my lifetime. Incredible changes we're seeing in our state. We need to take action, and fortunately the legislature did. They took action to make investments over $2 billion of money generated by our Climate Commitment Act. I believe this is going to improve lives long term, and it's going to improve jobs. Just give you an example how this is happening. I was in Yakima a few days ago where I was talking to the Perry Institute, about 100 folks who are going to be electricians. At the same time, we were permitting a solar panel farm in the Yakima Valley. We are creating jobs big time. We are giving our children a shot at a healthy planet to live on, and we're doing it because Washington State is leading, and we're leading the country in this regard. They also improved our ability to site facilities for clean energy and transmission lines. They added climate resiliency to the Growth Management Act, and they're supporting the development of people with skill sets to actually do this work with our Climate Corps and other proposals. I want to thank Senator Wynn, Representative Fitzgibbon, Dewar, and Slatter for their lead on these multiple bills. Now, obviously, tonight there was a failure to pass a Blake fix, and that needs to happen. It is unacceptable to me, it is unacceptable to the state of Washington to decriminalize drugs. And in the absence of passage of a bill, that's what would happen in the state of Washington. We expect the Washington State Legislature to produce a bill that will not decriminalize drugs, will provide measures for treatment, and will provide some sanction for those who fail to accept treatment. This is my expectation. It is the expectation of the people of the state of Washington. Tonight, we had 43 representatives willing to step up to the plate. They were all Democrats. Not one single Republican helped on this so that we wouldn't decriminalize drugs. Not one. I'm disappointed by that. We need more votes, and we need to hammer out a bill that can pass. That needs to happen before July 1st, because at that point, we would not have a law on the books. So it is our expectation legislators will get to work on this and get this job done. Anything else is not acceptable to the state of Washington. So with that, happy to take your questions.
Governor, you mentioned the expectation on Blake. You plan on calling a special session now or soon? I mean, what's your timeline on this?
We need legislators to quickly talk to one another as rapidly as possible and fashion something that has the number of votes to pass the Washington State Legislature. And we have to have that agreement. We have to act on it before July 1st. And it is our expectation that they will start those discussions as soon as that makes sense to do so.
Have you talked to the leadership to find out if there's the willingness to do that right away, or?
I've talked to leadership, and I'm confident that they will start discussions as soon as they can to try to find the requisite votes to move on this. Both leadership parties do not accept decriminalization. I'm confident that they, at least in the Democratic side, I talked to them tonight, that they want a bill. And they know we have to have more work to get more votes. Again, we had 43 Democrats. There was no help from the Republicans. I hope that that will improve.
So are you saying that the timing of when a special session called depends on whether depends on when they strike a deal or like have a deal? Yes,
because you need to have the votes to make a special session meaningful, obviously. But we need them to get the votes. We need them to fashion a provision that will satisfy the things I'm talking about. Not decriminalizing, having a criminal sanction for those who will not seek treatment, and a meaningful way to divert those who will get treatment. We ought to be able to accomplish that. It's my expectations that legislators will accomplish that, but they need to get the votes to do it. So I'm looking forward to them doing that as soon as possible.
What role do you see for yourself in that process, and what role, if any, did you have today? I mean, you were on Twitter supporting it. Did you talk with Democratic or Republican lawmakers?
I did.
You see yourself?
I did. Our staff talked to leadership, suggested that posting would be helpful to encourage folks to move forward, so we posted that. We thought that would be helpful. Didn't get enough votes, although it was close. It was close. This was a close vote. A couple votes would have made a difference here. That would have brought more. I was led to believe that we would have the votes earlier in the day. It did not transpire. So this is like a lot of things in life. You need to keep working on it. And so it is our expectation that legislators will keep working on that with the diligence that is required to get this job done.
Do you see yourself going forward, calling lawmakers in, chatting one-on-one, doing
whatever
that kind?
by any means necessary. Of course, I would talk to legislators to the extent we believe it's helpful, of course.
Do you anticipate, so we're talking about House Republican, you didn't get any votes over there. J.T. Wilcox announced that he's stepping down from leadership. I know at least during the day, he wasn't sure whether the leadership will actually be called today or a month from now. Do you see that sort of transitionary area? Do you think that will make finding a vote compromise or getting the votes harder?
Hope not. We need to have that discussion. Having leadership would help. And as I've said, we could use more Republican help to get this job done. So I'm hoping that that'll happen.
Of the options that they had on Blake, was there one that you thought was the best? That there was a Senate version, after the House changed it, then there was the conference committee report.
Well, my position has been as helpful as I can get to get the votes to get this job done within these parameters. Do not decriminalize drugs. Have very robust treatment and diversion policies so people can be diverted away from a jail if they accept treatment. And third, have an appropriate criminal sanction to create an incentive for people to go into treatment. I did not want to stymie being able to get the votes within those goalposts. So what I told the folks is either a gross misdemeanor or a misdemeanor I would sign, because we need a bill. We cannot accept decriminalization in the middle of a fentanyl crisis of these drugs. So we need a bill. Between those, I would have been happy to sign either version. The bill I had tonight, as my post indicated this afternoon, I would be perfectly acceptable to sign. Anything else?
Well, the assault weapons ban, I understand you may be signing it as early as Tuesday. Do you have a date for that?
I do not have a date. We'll sign it as soon as we can. So I don't have a date right now.
Is there anything in the operating or transportation budget that you can't live with, that you might take out with a line item veto?
We haven't gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. It wouldn't shock me. You know, there's nothing that jumps out at me at the moment, but we need to look at it very carefully, and we will do so. Okay?
There's elements in the Blake bill, but I think it's also kind of throughout the entire capital
budget and the operating budget is the development and opening of opioid treatment programs, substance abuse disorder facilities, et cetera. There's a preemption, well, actually not preempt, they call them essential facilities in the Blake bill, and it would preempt communities from stopping them. Is that language, are you comfortable with that language as well?
I'm not familiar exactly what you're talking about, so I'll have to get back to give you a specific answer right now. There are 3 or 4 things that sound like one another in that bill, and I want to make sure I give you the straight answer. So I will get back to you and look at that specific one.
You mentioned the expenditures on housing. Early in the session, you were pretty unhappy with the Senate version of capital budget and housing. Can you talk a little bit about how you've come along on the proposal that passed and in the attempts, sort of the hopes of sustaining that funding into the future?
So fortunately, the legislature responded to my request. They added over $100 million to what they were then discussing. So the needle moved substantially in the right direction, and now we have over $1 billion of investment. So that's pretty close to what I had suggested for the first biennium. Some, puts and takes in various programs, but roughly what I was asking them for. So the way I judge this is the legislature delivered during this biennium pretty much what I had asked them to deliver in the final analysis. Now, I had proposed a mechanism to have funding for out years for the next 2 bienniums as well. They did not take that path, so that means that we'll need to come back in the next biennium and continue these investments. But I'm very pleased. This is a huge increase in our investment, and it's needed. This is the scale that we needed. You can't solve this for nickels and dimes. And so I'm just very delighted that they got to where I wanted them to go. A little different mechanism, but they got there.
Are you interested in a ballot measure in 2024 when the electorate might be friendly?
Haven't thought through that. Just haven't thought through that. But right now, I'm just celebrating a win tonight, which is $1 billion worth of housing. Look, we, as I've been saying, our state is better than this. To see people living in encampments is just too painful, both to them and Washingtonians. And I'm pleased we're making progress. We have provided housing for over 500 people now living on our right-of-ways. We've closed quite a number of encampments with more to come. I was in the International District just a couple days ago with something where there were 200 tents a couple months ago. There's just a couple left. We've had amazing progress, but we need to keep that up. And now that we won this effort, we will have the dollars necessary to keep that effort up, continue to close these encampments, which we are doing, and we will continue to do at an accelerated pace. So I'm happy about setting up for future success.
Governor,
You've almost to your quota here. You got to start charging. The next one's $5. Okay.
This issue with Blake in a special session, how's that going to affect your decision about a fourth term or not? Have that weighing over you? Do you have to wait till that session's over? Do you think that would affect the ability to get agreement if they knew you weren't running for a fourth term or you were running for a fourth term?
You want me to be offered as a sacrifice to the legislators? Is that a human sacrifice? Is that what you're suggesting? I draw the line at certain things. No, it won't. It should not affect that decision.
Governor, the transportation budget has money for major programs that you wanted to delay. Are you worried about the expenditure of that money and whether or not it's sustainable?
Well, let me revise your question. I didn't want to delay those projects, okay? Okay. And the reason is we didn't see a way to have a sustainable budget in the out years. We had to make priority decisions. I am concerned about the out year ability to deliver these projects on the scale and the time frame that the legislators wanted or have suggested in this budget. I am concerned about that. I think that it is likely there will have to be priority decisions about which ones move at which pace, and the legislators worked with us to include provisos you will see in the budget that set up a work group to try to create those priorities. So I think you can anticipate that, in several years out, maybe years 4, 5, 6, that legislators are going to have to make some hard decisions about which ones move forward and which ones maybe get paused. But those will be the legislators taking some responsibility, not just the governor. And so, yes, that is a concern. And the first biennium or two, I think, will be okay. After that, there'll have to be some serious decisions. But I'm fully supportive of the North-South Freeway, want to see it move forward, but we need to have a way to finance it. With that, see you sooner rather than later, I hope, actually. Thank you.